Hey guys, I think we are live now. YouTube says we are, so I'm going to go with that. Um, so this is just a really, obviously very casual live stream. I wanted to talk to you guys, maybe answer some questions that I've been getting. A lot of people have been messaging me or just tweeting at me, posting stuff in the comments of videos and whatnot. Um, and clearly, by the title of this video, you guys know what those questions mostly are about. But I did not really. I wanted to hop on here and do a quick stream, and obviously, this isn't from my normal streaming setup. I'm not down in my studio. I'm just actually using my blade. So just excuse the mediocre quality here. But I just wanted to hop on and like I said, just talk to you guys for a bit and let me know if there's anything that I could do to I don't know, to improve the quality here. If it's within if it's within my reach, maybe adjust the audio or something like that. But if everything is looking and sounding at least okay, I think we're gonna run with it the way it is. But let me see who is in here, how many people are watching, and I'm gonna try not to shake this laptop too much while I'm doing this. All right, so MB, Alex Skolznev, Reese Clement Evans, Dolphin, I can't even pronounce, Dolphinti, New Plays, William Skagen, Panzer Shrek, Blitz Boss, Christopher Person, Brody, Game Master 57, Uncanny Media, Tulio Belia, and I think plenty of other people that I can't see who they are because they haven't commented yet. But just want to start going through some questions here. And so basically what I wanted to do is just talk about the RTX launch, talk about what my plans are for it, and answer any questions that I can that aren't necessarily about stuff that is currently under embargo. So no, there's not going to be any performance. I'm not going to leak any performance numbers right now. But perhaps I can answer some of you guys' questions leading up to the embargo lift for all that performance data. So feel free to fire away. But I'm going to go and read some of your comments, and then we'll get into it. All right, so New Place says, just randomly open YouTube, guess that my BPS sensor went off. Yeah, I've been shipping those out to applicable subscribers, so thanks for using it. William Skagen says, do the testing with Microsoft VGA drivers. I don't know how that would go. Apparently, Panzer Shrek saw one of my cats walking by, which is entirely possible. They are, I don't know, they basically run this house. So, Blitzball says, I am so excited to see this. Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to have you here. And he says, I'm sure you will be famous. I guess we'll see. That's I'm not counting on that anytime soon, but thank you. MB says, can you turn some lights on, please? So I have I have light there. I don't have any light. This is in the studio, just my living room. So there's like plenty of windows. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to show you all around, but there's windows all around me, and then I have the light on and my ceiling fan, and if I turn this light on, I think it's going to look terrible because I'm pointing right at it. So this is as much light as I can get right now, and like I said, unfortunately, this is going to be kind of a casual stream, so I hope that you guys can see me and hear me well enough for now. Tulio says, you're my favorite YouTuber. Oh, thanks, man. Or woman. But I think, man. Thank you very much. Eric Peterson. Hi, Brian. Hey, Eric. Panzer says vlog streams have a higher tolerance. As far as I'm concerned, it's more important that you're broadcasting rather than worrying about super high quality. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for. I'm here, like I said, just we're here to chat, and I don't even know if I'm gonna necessarily leave this up on YouTube after we're done here, but I figured I'd just hop on and say hello. Okay. Evil Angel 971 says, "Do you have them yet?" So, I no. So my cards got a little bit delayed, and they will be here tomorrow, maybe Tuesday. But I'm gonna have several of them. So what I'm gonna be able to do is kind of right off the bat is start comparing cooling solutions, overclocking performance, noise levels, and all that good stuff. So yes, I'm I guess a little bit behind as far as where everybody else is right now, uh, but that doesn't mean that there's going to be any lack of content coming from here. And I have all the information on what I'm getting already, um, so that's why I wanted to talk to you guys because perhaps there's some of that I could talk about. Robert Green asked me a good question that I saw and then went away. Hold on. Uh, do you think AIBs will ever sell for the starting from price, so the MSRP? And that's actually a really interesting topic of discussion. And one of the things that people gave NVIDIA a lot of heat for when when they were doing that announcement was that they basically were showing off their cards and at the same time talking about what the MSRP of the reference design would be or the base level card, but they didn't the prices they were talking about did not correlate with the hardware they were showing because obviously their FE cards are going to start much higher, and I guess they have that right. But the fact that they are doing that means that I think it's fairly unlikely we're going to see any cards at all that are going to be priced down in any significant amount. I think the best bet that you're going to have is like EVGA is coming out with a blower card. I haven't. I don't. I guess I don't have the information on hand about MSI, but I think MSI is also, and those are probably your best bet to come in a little bit under what you may have been seeing so far. But to be honest, at least for this initial launch, I'm going to say there's a really, really slim chance that you're going to see anything below the Founders Edition pricing because I guess one of the good and bad things about NVIDIA is that when they come out with a price, that's the price. Like if you buy it direct from them, that's what you're going to pay. They're not going to jack the price. Like even when the mining craze was happening, occasionally they'd be able to restock their store. And if you went on their store and bought a card, you'd buy it for MSRP. You know, their prices were not inflated because of mining. So as long as you can buy those cards, buy the FE cards for $1,200 whatever dollars for a 1080 Ti, then it seems like that's going to kind of be the baseline, and AIB cards are going to kind of probably go up from there. I mean, I know like the premium cards, like the For the Win 3 cards, and maybe the Strix card or whatnot, those are going to be very expensive. So, I mean, I think it's unfortunate that we're probably not going to see those prices that NVIDIA kind of boasted about. But I guess that's just the reality of it, unfortunately. Game. Oh, hey, buddy. There's a cat. Hold on. There's a cat right there. Hey, man. Anyway. So what was I saying? What do you think about? Okay, so GamerMaster says, what do you think about the new GDDR6 memory compared to GDDR5 and 5X? I mean, it's certainly faster, and that's what that's one of the things that I can't really get that far into, is what kind of performance boost we're seeing as far as memory goes, because that's part of the performance embargo, which I don't have my own numbers for, but I have numbers that I've been provided. So unfortunately, I can't get into too many details about that. But anything, so there's nothing that I could really talk about right now that you can't find on like a Google search, unfortunately. So, but it is clearly an improvement, and it's going to, I guess, think we're going to see GDDR6 in cards for the next couple of years. I don't foresee HBM really catching on. HBM has been around now for a couple of years. I mean, we saw it in the Fury cards. That was, when did they come out? 2014 or 15? And then HBM2, and it's just such an expensive process that the GDDR5, 5X, and 6 are just kind of ruling everything right now. Was unboxing obligatory for those who got free cards? No, I'm not going to do an unboxing. So, I mean, I don't have the cards yet, but when I do, I'm not going to do one. That was not NVIDIA doesn't even NVIDIA or AIBs do not make you do those. Those are just, I mean, another way to get publicity for the cards and for YouTubers to get some views, I guess. What is your favorite PC part company? So the problem with like, you know, saying that I like one company versus others is that a lot of times they do different things, and I could say that I like company X for these parts and company Y for these parts, but there's no company that I would say is my favorite for everything. I've honestly been tending, well, previous generation, I kind of tended to lean towards EVGA for graphics cards, Asus for motherboards, and I really like Corsair cooling and memory. And, you know, so I don't really have a favorite. I don't play favorites. That's not part of what I do here. And I think if I was just flat out biased, then I think that would affect negatively the content that you're seeing from this channel. And I mean, clearly I don't want that. So I try to keep an open mind no matter what parts are coming in from whatever company. I'll test them and give them their due diligence. And I've been hard on products from companies that I typically like, and I have praised products from companies that I typically don't really use all that often. So I think that's kind of just how you need to do it, how you need to approach things as a reviewer. And my cat's going to start meowing. I wonder if you guys can hear that. If he keeps it up, I'm going to, I'll move him. Anyway, Pascal G says, hello, fromage, Switzerland. So I assume that's just a typo, but it's funny because fromage means cheese in French. So, hello, cheese, Switzerland. Jeff M says, yo. That's, thank you. Thank you for your contribution, Jeff M. Blue the Fox says, personally, just glad I could catch you live. Wasn't able to the last few times. Well, thanks for joining us. Feel free to contribute to the conversation, Mr. the Fox. MB says, do you think that leaked RTX benchmarks are correct? So just talking about what has come out from leaks. What has been leaked was primarily the information that NVIDIA themselves distributed. So I would imagine that that is accurate, because for the first time since we saw these cards launch, or even saw NVIDIA talking about them, they gave us title of, testing title, settings, frame rates, comparison versus other cards, different resolutions. So, or not different resolutions, different, like HDR on, HDR off, stuff like that. So I have every reason to believe that those are accurate. I believe the numbers are accurate. However, just understand where that data is coming from. And I could tell you personally, so there was I don't even remember how many titles were leaked. 10, 12 titles were leaked. And they were not titles that, I mean, there were titles that certainly some people benchmark. And my testing is I have 15 different titles that I'm going to be testing. There was no overlap at all. It seems like they were choosing titles that perhaps were performing better with their RTX cards. Things like, where HDR gives a big hit on Pascal cards. It's not as bad on, the new 2080 or whatnot. So I don't know if they were cherry picking the titles they were choosing to put out there, but I have no reason to doubt that information, those numbers, that testing data is wrong. It's just the manner that they're choosing to release it and the titles that they chose could be purposefully done. But until I have my own numbers to share, then I guess we won't know for sure. But I think that data is probably accurate. Peter Anderson says, is it fair to expect a 20 to 25% bump from 20XX versions versus 10X? Okay, so from 10 series to 20 series and okay, I'm gonna reword your question because I think you asked it in a little weird way. You're saying, is it fair to expect 20 to 25% performance uplift between generations, and if it was less than that, would it be a fail? So this is kind of the eternal question. This is what people have kind of been arguing about ever since NVIDIA had their press conference and didn't show off any data. People are there's a couple different schools of thought here. The first is that NVIDIA is pushing the envelope when it comes to new technologies and really pushing for this, pushing for ray tracing, pushing for DLSS, deep learning, super sampling, really trying to get game developers onto the next generation graphics train, I guess you could call it, where devs are going to be implementing these features into games hopefully soon. I want to see it soon. And them coming out with hardware that supports it is a way to push the industry forward. AMD is really stagnant when it comes to this stuff. They're not really innovating on that front, and it doesn't look like they're going to have anything new anytime soon. So on one hand, I am glad that NVIDIA is doing this, that their focus is on new technologies. At the same time, you have to consider that people who are looking to buy these cards, whether it be for an upgrade or for a first system or for whatever, they're going to have to need a reason to buy them as opposed to the 10 series cards. And right now, the 10 series cards are plentiful and available, and you could buy them. You could buy 10 series cards for under MSRP, which you haven't been able to do since they were launched. So this is a great time if that's what you wanted to do. And people will be looking at these cards versus Pascal and say, I'm only getting 15% uplift generation over generation, and the card costs half as much. Why would I bother? And that is a perfectly legitimate thing to say and a perfectly reasonable way to approach this situation. So in that sense, when it comes to people wanting to upgrade and purchase the cards, I think those people might consider it a fail that these cards might not perform as well as they wanted them to. But that doesn't mean that the release as a whole is a fail, because it is doing other things besides just giving you faster frame rates in your games. Personally, I think that I would want to see. I did a video where I kind of took a bunch of historical data for the 780, 980, and 1080 and extrapolated based on historical precedent, what the 2080, at that time I called it an 1180 because we didn't know what it was going to be called. But I extrapolated what the next generation should perform like, based on how NVIDIA has been going about their generational improvements. And I think, I don't remember the exact number, but I was somewhere in the 35% range. So if I look at it just based on that comparison and we only hit 20%, but we get all these new features that are kind of pushing the industry forward, I think that's probably fine. It's still going to sell a ton, and there's still going to be a reason for it to exist. And the new Founders Edition cards look really cool, to be honest with you. So I think that would be fine. If we get higher than that, I think if we're in the 25-30% range, then that's going to be a pretty big success. And if we're lower than that, I think they're going to probably won't sell all that well, but I still think there's reason for them to exist. I hope I answered your question. John Hepworth says, can't stay on, but I appreciate you reaching out to your community. Well, that's what I'm here for, John. Thank you very much, and sorry you couldn't stick around. IKSDEXD. I don't know how to pronounce that, but he says, do you think NVIDIA is trying to kill AIB partners because NVIDIA is selling MSRP to AIB partners? So I don't have any inside data on pricing information, so I can't really answer that question. I think that they're definitely taking a chunk out of AIB partners' business by moving over to a cooler that seems much more substantially constructed if you've seen any of the teardowns, and it likely will perform a lot better job of cooling. So that's kind of getting right into the meat of the AIB's cards niche, where a lot of the times what AIBs are providing is a better cooling solution. And if NVIDIA themselves are providing cards that are factory overclocked and have a good cooling solution and look pretty good, that's kind of the whole AIB, that's the whole reason that AIBs exist and the whole reason that they make these cards. So AIBs are going to have to work harder to get designs out into the market that are going to have different selling points. So I don't necessarily think that NVIDIA is trying to kill the AIBs. I think that would be pretty silly if they did that, because that's where they do their business. That's who they sell the chips to. But at the same time, I definitely think that they are taking cues from AIB's designs in the past and incorporating them in order to perhaps sell more of the Founders Edition cards, which they probably have a pretty good margin on, I guess. So that's what I think is happening there. Johnny Evans says, can Vapor Chamber make a big difference in a 2-slot card versus regular heatsink card? I'm not sure. I'm not really quite sure what that means. Most cards are 2 slots. I mean, some are now 2.5, 2 3/4, but most of them are 2. So I'm not really sure what that means. I'm sorry. Eric Peterson says 1080 Ti and SLI pretty much worthless these days? Question mark. I have one. Thoughts? So you're asking me if you should upgrade to a second 1080 Ti? It depends entirely on what you're doing, what games you're playing, but for the most part, a single card solution is going to be better for you, and for anybody, not just for you. And increasingly, SLI support in games is just kind of going away. Multi-GPU support is not really that widespread anymore, and I'm a little disappointed by that, because I used to run SLI configurations all the time, and now the last time I had one, it didn't really do very much for me. So I'm going to be moving forward with single GPU solutions probably. And I mean, if you play games that can take advantage of more than one graphics card, then sure. I mean, that seems like you're going to blow past what a 2080 Ti can do if you have two 1080 Ti's and you're able to leverage that power in whatever you're playing. But most of the time, that second 1080 Ti is just going to kind of be sitting there. So just be aware of that before you make that investment. What do you think about Asus only releasing a dual fan RTX 2080 Ti and not triple fan Strix design? You're going to see a lot more AIB cards come out um, in the next couple months. There's going to be. I thought there was a Strix design. Even if there's not, this applies generally to the industry as a whole. The third-party cards that are coming out right now on launch day or around launch day are all going to be based on the reference PCB. So cards that are more advanced that use a custom PCB designed by the AIB are going to take a little bit longer to come to market because NVIDIA did not give the reference design to manufacturers until a shockingly short time ago. So there was not a whole lot of time for them to develop their cards. And as time goes on, we're going to see Strix cards if they're not out yet. And, you know, probably EVJ will have a Kingpin card and stuff like that. So they're coming. It just takes a little while to engineer. Robert Green says, I see a week delay on the 2080 Ti. I think that is a stock issue. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a stock issue. The people who pre-ordered the 2080 Ti's are still supposed to get them as scheduled. So I think that they just kind of blew through their initial allocation, and they're realizing they're going to have to make more before they could sell them. I guess, you know, on the shelf or just, you know, available to be purchased on the website and delivered, you know, next day or whatever the case may be. Panzer Shrek says, I'll be honest that I'm unlikely to buy this generation of cards when the price of a 2080 Ti non-reference is likely to exceed the model number. Likely to exceed the model. So it's going to be more than $2,000 Australian, basically. Well, I mean, I don't know the exact currency exchange rate, but given that if you have a super high-end 2080 Ti in America that's going to be going for $1,400, then that seems reasonable. And I wouldn't fault anybody for not upgrading it. That is a huge investment. That is like a mortgage payment for some people. So be careful with how you spend your money. Don't do anything silly. Ready Player One, hey, what's up, man? Haven't talked to you in a while. He says, I'm late. You're going to test SLI/NVLink. I don't have any plans to do so right now. However, I have certainly thought about it. But it would involve me getting multiples of any given card, and right now I'm only kind of getting one of everything. So I guess it depends on if any of them have the same dimensions, because the NVLink bridges are all solid. So it's not like a ribbon cable where you could have different cards at different heights and connect them. They have to be the same. So unless I could work out a way to get a second one of any of the cards that I'm getting, I can't really test NVLink. But maybe, because I think that that's certainly something that's going to be interesting to see how scaling is different than with SLI, and how memory pooling works differently and whatnot. So I would hope that there's a reason that they're switching to NVLink. Maybe it's just to unify all their cards. You know, now all of their cards have NVLink as opposed to some having NVLink and some having SLI. And they just kind of want a unified front when it comes to multi-GPU. Or maybe there are actual some performance benefits in games. And to be honest, I don't know that much about NVLink, where I could talk about it in an educated manner regarding gameplay. So if I can make that work, I will certainly test it, but it's not a priority right now. Spicoli says, I just want to say your channel is awesome and it has helped me in so many ways. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you for watching, and that means a lot to me. Shellback says, I made it. Any word from Ed on the investigation? No, there's nothing right now that's anything more than that's been made public as far as I know. I speak to him very sparingly, so he's not like I mean, you know, he's not a friend of mine. We don't have regular discussions, so I don't think he would be sharing that with me before he shares it with other people. But I wish Ed the best. And for those of you guys who don't know, Ed, TechSource Ed, had a break-in. Like he had like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff stolen, including all his camera gear and whatnot, and that's awful. And I said this on Twitter. He and we've not always seen eye to eye on everything, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that I don't wish him well. And he's part of the tech community, and if there's anything that I could have done to help him out, if he needed to borrow something or whatnot, I would certainly do that for him. So far he hasn't reached out to me for anything. But I hope that situation gets resolved and he's able to get his stuff back. Not having it insured, pretty big mistake, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm a much smaller channel, and it's not a mistake that I would make. So, especially if you got a separate office dedicated to this. So if you're ever getting into this space, or you have any business where you have a large amount of inventory that your business relies on, get insurance. That's basically what it comes down to. But I wish Ed well. I hope he gets his stuff back, or they catch the person who did it. And he's always welcome to reach out if he needs something. I'm getting way behind here. Alex Skolznev says, my last NVIDIA card is a GTX 970, and I skipped the 10 series, so I decided to pre-order a 2080. And then that's perfectly reasonable. But if you had a 1080, would you have done the same thing? When are you releasing RTX reviews? Is it on the 20th, or can you release it earlier? Thanks, says NB. I can't talk about that. But you can probably find that information if you do a quick search. Robert Green says, how soon do you think a 7-nanometer refresh will occur? I don't know. There's been talk that we're going to see it next year, but they have to get that fab process up and running. So I don't know. I mean, these cards aren't even out yet. So hopefully soon, because that would be great. I mean, lead to a lot of power efficiency improvements. But I don't know. Jeff M says, curious if you've heard anything from AIBs or anyone else about import tariffs driving prices up for graphics cards and other components. So tariffs are certainly having an effect on every part of the market. Cases have been hit harder than any other component, clearly, because they have the most metal. But I think that I don't think you can discount the fact that tariffs will have an impact on prices of components. I don't know that we're necessarily going to see it as these are what tariffs are doing to these prices. However, if prices creep up over time, that could very well be that could be why. But I haven't had any specific discussions with AIBs about prices of components. So I guess I don't really have a whole lot of information there. Evil Angel says, is there even room for new graphics cards to show up from AMD and Intel? Always. There's always room. First of all, Vega has basically fallen off the map. So anything that AMD introduces is just going to fill the gap left by Vega being not a fantastic product. And then Intel has, the biggest name recognition in the industry. And I think if they were to release anything, people would pay attention. So we'll see what they come out with. But there's room. There's definitely room. NVIDIA does not have a stranglehold on every part of the graphics card market right now. So we'll see what Intel brings to the table. And I hope AMD comes back with something good too. Okay. Random Hato. I'm looking forward to the technology developing, but it's unlikely the first-gen RTX will see much support from games for a while, so I'll wait for now. Fair enough. Yeah, we haven't really seen a whole lot of... even though NVIDIA says all these games will support it, what was the list? Like 20 games or something? And none of them are out yet. Or none of them have RTX support yet. So We'll see. The Happy Place says, I love you so much. Can I get a shout out? Sure. Does that count? The Happy Place? Thank you very much for watching. Faraz says, how well do you think the 1070 1080 series will hold up in the next few years as this ray tracing develops and moves into more games? Well, so there's always going to be the option of just just turning off ray tracing. The problem is when developers are leaning on ray tracing for lighting effects and things of that nature, it depends how hard they're leaning, because you could end up with a game that relies almost exclusively on ray tracing features in order to properly light a scene. And if you happen to if you're like, well, my GPU can't handle it, I'm turning off ray tracing, and then you end up with a scene that looks like something that, a game that was released in 2002. So it really depends how heavily they're leaning on those developing technologies in order to put out a good product. Because if it's a feature like Hairworks, or something along those lines, where turning it off is not really going to affect your gameplay, then you should always have the option of doing that, and then you'll just be able to play the game. And the 1070 and 1080 are still really powerful cards, and especially if you're gaming at 1440p, or if you're gaming at 1080p, those are way overkill. So you should be fine for the next couple of years, absolutely. Sorry, some duplicate questions here. Louis Carpio. Oh, we'll have a tangent question. Is the NZXT H700 good, or are there alternatives? Yeah, it's a really good case. Yeah, a little pricey, especially if you get the I version, but yeah, really good case. MB says, what do you think about the Lian Li PC 011 Dynamic? Well, I did a whole video where I built my new system in it. It's awesome. It looks amazing, especially the way I have it configured with 9 addressable RGB fans in there and all the RGB memory. So it looks pretty crazy and colorful. So I really like that because you have windows on different sides, the front, and you could see it all lit up from different angles, and airflow is pretty good. I have the radiator mounted on the back wall, and it just blows right out the back side of the case. So I've had no problems at all, to be honest with you. I really like it. And I like that it's smaller than a lot of the cases that I've been building in recently, and has a lot of flexibility for cable routing. That whole back chamber is excellently designed. So yeah, really happy with it. It's Leaf says, are you personally getting a 2080 Ti card? Yes, I am. Will Barty says, what sort of timeline, if any, do you foresee for the adoption of added ray tracing to existing games? I think I don't know that we're going to see any ray tracing added to existing games, except the ones that were listed by NVIDIA. We're not going to see like Doom 2016 all of a sudden add ray tracing support. That's probably just not something that's going to happen. Okay. What is your favorite RGB fan series, says Azan Tavares? Well, funny enough that you should ask. I have a video coming out later today on some brand new fans that are awesome. So you should watch that video. Vision Beats says, about to buy a 1080 Ti, or should I wait to get the 2080, or do you think the price will drop on the 1080 Ti when it launches? Well, the prices are already coming down on 1080 Ti's. They've been on a downward trend for a while now. I don't foresee them going a whole lot lower because they're already less expensive than a 2080, and there's still a lot of demand for 1080 Ti's because of what people assume performance is going to be comparative to the new cards. So I think that you might see prices drop very, very slightly, more, but I think for now they've almost kind of stabilized in the $650 to $700 range, and you'll probably be able to get them for that amount for a good amount of time. Like I said, you may see them come down another $50, but I wouldn't expect them to. I don't think they're just going to crater out of nowhere. There's still a lot of demand. How many hard drives in RAID 0 to reach SSD performance? That's an interesting question. So, I mean, I don't know what SSD you're talking about. If you're just talking about like a standard SATA 2.5-inch SSD, that's a read and write speeds of about 500. So you're probably talking, you probably need 3 of them. Because I have my RAID array that's for all my mass storage of files. I get about 320 each way on that RAID array, and that's perfectly fine for what I need it for. But if you, and that's a 2-drive array. But if you had 3, you probably get up a little bit higher than that. Ready Player One says 1080 Ti prices are still going down, seeing sorry about this, guys. Seeing 500 to 550 used on eBay. Yeah, well, used clearly is going to be less. If you guys are looking for used cards, to be honest with you, check out eBay, but also check out the Reddit forum Hardware Swap, because the people on there are, that is like a it's like eBay, but people are much more friendly and willing to negotiate and stuff like that. So, and it's a very fast moving forum. You could basically find anything you need in there. So I'd recommend Hardware Swap if you're looking for used stuff. Corentin Coulon says, can we expect some more water cooling guides on your channel? Would love to see some 2080/Ti water block installation guide, for instance. Well, they're going to be pretty much the same as the guides for, as like the how-tos I've done for other cards. But there's definitely going to be additional water cooling content on the channel. It's just that the last couple of months, have been so full of new product launches and things to review. I haven't really been able to cram in any additional water cooling content. My water cooling for beginners series, I've done 3 of them, and the other day I was watching them through, and I was trying to think of stuff for beginners that I hadn't yet covered, and that was one of the things that I thought about, installation of GPU water blocks, but that was specifically in that series. I haven't covered them. I've done them before on the channel. So I was thinking if I was going to do another entry into that series, that's probably what I would do, what I would cover. But right now, like, I have videos. There's so many videos on my whiteboard that I am past the capacity of the whiteboard. Like I could schedule 2 months of videos on my whiteboard, and I'm beyond that. So it's getting a little hectic right now, and as we get into the holiday season, I'm not sure what else I'm going to be able to do. So stick around if you're looking for water cooling content. I'm going to try to get to some more of it, but it might be difficult right now. Joe Brown says, is it true you learned how to build computers by watching The Verge? That is a sick dig, sir. Very sick. Sick burn. No, that video was just awful. There were so many problems that I had with that video. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, The Verge, the website The Verge, put out a video on how to build a computer, how to build a gaming PC. And not only did apparently their editors and producers and their film crew have no idea about any of this because they didn't correct it, but the person putting the PC together was just clueless. And he was awful at it. He used all the wrong terminology. He used the wrong tools. He put parts in the wrong order. He made suggestions that were actively dangerous to people who might not know that they're inappropriate for building a PC. And myself and Steve from Gamers Nexus and Greg from Salazar Science Studios, had quite the, and Jay, I think, got in on it too, had quite the little back and forth on Twitter about this whole thing. And it was just, if you want, it got so bad that their video on YouTube, they disabled comments for. which is a problem because I certainly understand toxic comments. Things happen, but when your video only has comments telling you that this is incorrect, you did things wrong here, this is improper and can cause problems. That's all the comments were. They were hundreds and hundreds of comments that to that exact same effect. I didn't read through it and see one positive comment. That acts kind of like as a check on the video, because if somebody is a new builder and The Verge has 2.1 million subscribers, and they Google how to build a PC, well, The Verge's channel is, I'm not sure how to help. Well, my Google just got activated. Sorry. So if they Google that and the Verge's video is the first one to come up and they watch it without any information in the comments saying this is all wrong, they may. Hey Google, stop. Okay, sorry. So anyway, if they watch the video and there's nothing in the comments to correct any of what they're saying, they may assume that what The Verge's article is saying or their video is saying is true and accurate, and that's a problem. So by disabling these comments, and they also elected to shut off all the upvotes, downvotes. So that is what bugs me almost more than this awful video, is that now they're just leaving this video on YouTube for people to watch, and beginners could really cause problems and harm to their system by watching these videos. But anyway, if you want a laugh, I guess, go watch The Verge's video on how to build a $2,000 gaming PC. But just keep in mind that it is freaking terrible. It is terrible. I ran out of things to count that were wrong with it. It started out with him putting on like a Livestrong bracelet as an anti-static wristband and not connecting it to anything, and then saying he's going to build this computer with a Swiss Army knife because that's the proper tool to use. And I was like, this guy has no effing idea what the hell he's talking about. And it got worse from there. So awful video. And he just blocked Greg too. So great. Good for him. How well will the RX 580/GTX 1060 hold up in newer games at 1080p in the coming future? I don't know. I have no idea. Andreas Sturm says, what are your thoughts on how AMD will compete against NVIDIA? Do you think that Navi could be the same surprise for NVIDIA as Ryzen was for Intel? That would be nice, but they kind of said that when Vega launched. They were kind of all really hyped up on Vega, that it was, going to blow everybody's doors off, and then they launched it and it was just kind of a turd. So I want AMD to be competitive. I want Navi to be a good product, but we'll see. We'll see if it happens. There's no information out right now on Navi, so I don't know. Azan Tavares says, which custom cable company would you go with, Cable Mod or Mod DIY? I don't know Mod DIY, so if I'm choosing between those two, Cable Mod's always been a solid choice. Go with their Pro cables, not their regulars. The Pro cables are much, much better. But I would look into smaller companies that are doing it. Like, I work with Ensourced a lot for a reason. His cables are awesome. So check them out. Ready Player One says, watch Kyle's video of him watching the video. Yeah, I did see that. And I think he went easy on him. I think he could have gone a lot harder. I think I got actively angry as I'm watching it, so I think if I was going to do like some kind of reaction video, I wouldn't be so nice. Quickshot Gaming says the new Call of Duty is hard on hardware. with all the graphics settings at lowest or off, I was getting 90 FPS with a 1070 and an i7 7700. Okay, at what resolution? That certainly matters. So I've hit the end of my comments here that I have. We've been on for 50 minutes. So, and I think we'll probably I guess we'll cut it off here because, like I said, this is kind of like an impromptu, very casual stream, and I just wanted to answer as many questions as I could about the upcoming graphics card launch. I hope you guys took something away from it. I hope that the information I provided was valuable to you guys, or at least the discussion was. There's going to be a lot of RTX content on the channel coming up. Let's call it very soon. So be on the lookout for that. I'll be testing different AIB cards. I'll be testing the Founders cards. And then I'll probably do some follow-up content where I talk about like overclocking and stuff like that, performance uplift. We'll do like a generation comparison. So there's a lot coming. And the video today that I'll be releasing in like an hour and a half-ish on the Thermaltake, the Ring Trio fans, which are really cool. Azan Tavares asked me about cables again, end-sourced. Hold on. End-sourced. Okay, so that's it, guys. Thanks for hanging out on a Sunday. Go watch some football if that's your thing. Yeah, I will see you guys around next time. Thanks for coming.